So You Want to Live on Sark by Chris Davies Curtis. Chapter 1. The rolling and pitching of the overnight ferry made me wonder why people paid money to thrill-seek in fairgrounds. All they had to do was catch the overnight ferry from Weymouth to the British Channel Islands. At last Ken and I arrived at Guernsey's St. Peter Port main quay in the pre-dawn light of a grey February morning. With 3/4 of an hour to fill until the Sark ferry left, we looked for somewhere that might be open at 6:30 in the morning. Over a welcome cup of hot coffee in a workman's cafe on the quay, I stared blearily at my handsome bearded husband. He still looked his neat, slim self, dark wavy hair in place and deep brown eyes bright and wide awake. He looked more my age than 9 years older. I felt twice my 26 years. I knew my fair hair was sticky and dull and had come unravelled from its ponytail. My spectacles were smeared, and I'd forgotten to put any lipstick on my dry lips. I felt a mess. Oh, I hope we aren't making a big mistake. Well, it's a bit late for that. Ken stirred his coffee. I thought this was what you really wanted. Excitement and challenge, you said. He smiled at the thought of my earlier enthusiasm. Come on, where's all that optimism? He paused as he took a sip of coffee. You'll be okay after a good night's sleep. My husband was a good sailor and had slept soundly on the reclining chairs. I, on the other hand, had not slept a wink and wished I had overruled Ken's insistence that the berths were too expensive. A little revived, we walked round to the next landing to find the Sark ferry and watched our suitcases and trunks being loaded. The 3 railway containers on the way from England with all our worldly goods would follow later on the cargo boat, when weather permitted. I was to be pleased that I had included 2 beakers, plates and sets of cutlery in our suitcases. The 1 container with all crockery, cutlery, carpets and bed linen was delayed by bad weather for several weeks, a situation that became all too familiar in the years to come. With difficulty we negotiated the heaving gangplank, but I refused to go down below to the passenger cabin. I later heard it called the coffin. It had no windows, and access was by a hand-over-hand runged ladder. Once down, the passengers could drink and smoke themselves to oblivion, as there was a bar at one end of the cabin which did brisk service. Despite his tendency to asthma, Ken decided to brave the smoke fumes below. I spent the hour-long journey on the top deck, clinging to the rail and avoiding the occasional big wave that sought to sweep me overboard, revelling in the salty tang. I did not mind as the wind blew my anorak hood back, soaking my hair and causing my spectacles to mist. Refreshed by the wind and spray, I watched the grey smudge of Sark grow larger through the increasing light. We passed the small islands of Jettu and Herm, and I could see the early light behind me painting the houses of St. Peter Port in gold and crimson. At last we arrived, and my exhilaration evaporated as I felt the hard concrete of the Sark quay under my feet. Our holidays had all been in May. The weather had been warm and the cliffs aglow with wild flowers. Now it was so different. I looked up at the towering grey cliffs, at the churning sea below and the cruel rocks by the harbour entrance, and felt a deep panic in my stomach. Bonjour, you'll be the new people at Camp Farm. Welcome to Sark. Good to have you here. The voice behind me was warm and friendly. I turned and met Harry, the harbour master, for the first time, with his seaman's hat, grey beard, and twinkling blue eyes. And the panic left me as my confidence returned, for a little while.